All right, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Thiago. For those who don't know me, I'm a customer success manager here at TagoIO. And today we're going to talk about the Kickstarter application, which is a brand new app we are launching in order to help customers to achieve their solution quickly. It's a generic application. I'm here today with Victor, and let's check the topics that we're going to cover today. So first, what is the Kickstarter? Some of its features and structure, what it comes with, what support do you have in regards to the Kickstarter, in terms of GitHub repository, guide, some scripts that are ready to go. How you can obtain this application? What are the requirements? The kind of contribution that you can work through GitHub and pull requests, for example. Some references, and Victor is going to go through a live presentation of the Kickstarter modules. Remember that you have a Q&A. Feel free to ask. Please feel free also to interact through the chat. We're going to go through the Q&A questions by the end of this webinar. And I hope everybody enjoyed this presentation. Victor is with you.
Hey everyone. So I am Victor. I work with applications at TagoIO, and let's start talking about the Kickstarter application. Oh, first question is, what is the Kickstarter application? So knowing that TagoIO is a platform to build applications, the Kickstarter application is a starting point for your application. So you do have some basic features that we understand that most applications need, and you can avoid building all these features. You can just get the Kickstarter, get these features ready for you to start adding support for your sensors and start using TagoIO. So by releasing the Kickstarter, we hope to solve a problem for you to have some code so you can understand how Tago works, how use all the resources that we make available. And we'll continue to update Kickstarter with new features through time and adding more support to new features that we release. And the Kickstarter, going through the slide here, is application ready. So you do have a full application available from the start. It's meant to be easy to install in your account. It does have the critical features that most applications need, and is scalable in a way that you can reuse dashboards and create every resource through the application. So it's easy to set up sensors. So you have 3 steps just to add support to your own sensor. The GitHub code is available for you. And when I say GitHub code, I'm talking about analysis because applications use a lot the analysis features of TagoIO. And it does have full documentation, and it's actually 3 documentations. You have encoded documentation, the documentation through the dashboards, and also a PDF documentation where we explain all the resources that we use in the Kickstarter, resources from TagoIO like access rules, run buttons, which devices we use, tags, etc. So this next slide here is just a presentation of the Kickstarter. So you can quickly see from here that we make use of the run buttons for the run environment. And we do have options for the user to set up alerts, plan, reports, including inviting other users to the application. So let's start to talk about the Kickstarter features and the architecture that we think that will work for most use cases. So when you first enter on TagoIO, first thing you need to do, using Kickstarter or not, is to make sure your sensors and is supported by TagoIO. And that usually means just finding a connector and testing your sensor, checking if the sensor is being capable to communicate with Tago. And in some cases means creating a network support. So once you have that done, you can actually import the Kickstarter models. And which models do we have? So in the Kickstarter, you can expect to have organization management. That is a way that the Kickstarter solves the problem of separating different user information from each other. So one organization cannot see information from a different organization. We do have plan management, which is limits of SMS and email and data retention, and how much data retention you have by organization. So let's say you want an organization to be being capable of storing data for only one month. So the plan management covers that. We do have device management and grouping. And when I say device management, is actually giving you the tools to create the devices through the application instead of only being able to create devices using the developer account. We do have user management up to 3 levels, which means we have a super administrator that can see all the organizations. We have organization administrator that can only see information regarding his organization. And we also have a guest user that only have view access to the dashboards of a specific organization. We also have alert management, and it is a very customizable alert management system that you can play around and create different ways to interact with the alerts. So let's say you want to remove some complexity or add the more complexity. The alert management is a very way to do that in the Kickstarter. We also added support for map and image marker, which we actually are saying we have support for outdoor and indoor tracking. And for last, we have the PDF report generator. That is something most applications do is make use, being capable of generating PDFs and schedule PDFs to be sent every Monday, for example. So after you have the Kickstarter model, you can start to build your solution logic, which is adding your own analysis to handle panic button sensors, water leak sensors. So all this logic comes from your ideas, your own analysis that you will build on top of the Kickstarter. And for last is the deployment, adding your white label, your own colors, your logo, and your domain. And how do I get the application into my account? So we have actually 2 methods. One is by importing the Kickstarter directly from the URL, and we do have a link for that in our documentation as well. And to import, you actually only need to generate an account token, go to this link and press import. And it is also the same methods for you to update your application. So if later on you want to update your application with the last version of the Kickstarter, you can quickly follow the same process. And we also have another method that is installation by steps, that is useful when you only want a few features of the Kickstarter, or if you want to learn how all these resources work together and go creating one by one, so you can understand each resource of TagoIO that is being used by Kickstarter. And we do have a full guide on how to get the dashboard templates, how to create the analysis, the actions, the access rules. So you can choose that way if you are in the learning process. So the code is open source, which means we have the code available in our GitHub and is analysis Kickstarter GitHub. And the cool thing about using GitHub is that we have issue tracking. So if you see some issue when using a Kickstarter in your account, you can open an issue for us to track it down and try to fix the problem. You can do changes and pull requests to the Kickstarter. So if you fix by yourself and you want to make a pull request for us, you can evaluate your code and merge with our own code so everyone have access to your features or fixes that you have done. And of course, you can fork this repository to your own GitHub and start to do your own modifications for your own application. So you can start using the Kickstarter now by accessing kickstarter.run.tago.io. So this is a live demo that you can go create your account, add some simulator sensors, and see how the dashboards works and all the features that we have in the Kickstarter. We have here the GitHub repository, so you can check the code and the documentation that we have. We also have here the link for the documentation. This one is the PDF that will go through explaining all the resources that had been used in the application. And of course, how to create your first administrator, how to add your sensor to the application. Everything is available through this PDF. And we also have, we also provide support to our community. So feel free to go to our community, open a topic. We will be glad to help you with any question that you have. So last thing we have here is to check the application. So I will go live here to show you the application. So actually the first thing I will do here is to import the application to my account. And here I am in the GitHub. And we have this step here for easy installation. And it does have the steps described for you to follow. One of the first things we need to do is to generate a token. So I'll go to my account. I don't have the Kickstarter here yet. Then I can go to my profiles and generate the accounts token that I will need to import the Kickstarter. So actually, we need to generate a new one here. So I'll call this token Kickstarter. Permission is full. And I need to set the expire in to never, because if this token expires, it's expected for my analysis to stop working. So I don't want that to happen. And here I can enter my account, password. Okay, so I have the token here. And just to make sure, I believe I need to enable the run here as well. So I will enable just by pressing start now and save. This will enable the run environment in my account. Now I can go back to the tutorial and access the import tool. So in the import tool, I do have some entities that I can export. Usually you want to export all the entities because you need all of them for the application to work correctly. So I can enter my token here and start importing. And if I go back to my account, let me refresh here. Okay, so I received this notification saying that the application, the importing process started, and it can take up to 5 minutes. And if I start to check my dashboards, I can see the dashboards is being created here. If I go to the analysis, You can see several analyses had been imported to my account. Same thing for access rules, the actions as well. And if I go to the run here, I also should start to see the buttons that we saw in the images in the slides. And this button is actually set on my sidebar here, so I can check all the buttons. And it's also expected for me to have my dictionary multi-language because the Kickstarter does have support to multi-language. And you can quickly change some words in the application. For example, if you don't want organization, you want a different name, let's say buildings or customers, you can quickly go through these dictionaries and change organization to something else. So when my application was imported, I get this notification that the application was successfully imported and I can start to use. Okay, I also have a device here that we call settings dev that is only used to store basic information about the application. So first thing we need to do in order to start using this application is to create a user. So just for knowledge, you can actually access the application through the dashboards in here. But in this case, you need to know the order of things because you have different dashboards. And for example, if I try to access the tracker, I don't have an organization, neither a tracker here. So it's just for you to know. So starting to create my first administrator, I will go here to the users, add the user. I'll enter my email here, a name and a password. I don't actually need to fill up the other fields. So what the Kickstarter uses to understand what is an administrator is actually the tag. So I need to have this tag access with the value admin, so I can actually use the application. I believe I don't have a limit for this profile. Let me give a limit here. Okay. So let's go back and edit the user again. And how do I know that the application is using this tag? So you can see that in the documentation here that will explain how to create your first user. But of course, you can also check the access rules here, see admin, and it's actually asking for the tag access admin. So you can change this anytime. You can enter a different value here if you don't want to use admin at all. So now I can log in as this user and go inside my application. And we can see we have all the dashboards. I have the admin and plan management. And we can start using it. So we can edit our first plan. And I can say this is a basic plan with some user limits here and data rotation set forever. So we don't want to have data rotation for this plan at all, or you can set one for 1 month and create your plan. And sometimes when you log in as user, you need to refresh, or I probably don't have the limits here for run in this new profile. Let's see my limits here. So it's everything 0. So make sure you do have limits if you are using a different profile. So let me take off the limits of a different account here. And we can go to Kickstarter and just increase everything. So why this happens? So as I mentioned, applications in TagoIO are actually analysis, and you will use data input when you are storing information, data output when you are accessing information inside devices, and of course, analysis when you click on the buttons. All this is explained in the PDF, of course. So if you don't have limits or you reach your limits, you can expect the application to not work properly. So make sure you do have limits in your account. Okay, so I created my plan. Now I can create my organization. I can say test. I can drag this thing around. I can select my basic plan. And if I want to, I can invite a user, but will not go through this process now. And start create my organization. And now I can access the organization. So in this layout, we are actually giving the users the option to create their sensors. This is something you can easily change by removing this button and add it to a different dashboard if you don't want users to be able to create devices at all. So I'll create my first device here, which is a freezer simulator. I don't have any group yet, so I can create directly. And I can refresh here. And now I have my first device. And since this is a simulator, it will start to send data in a few minutes, and I can go through to the sensor dashboard. And once the device starts to send data, I will see the informations in here. And different thing I want to show is the alerts, because it's a very powerful tool that actually most applications need this. And I can create new alerts. I can select my sensor that I just created. So we do have here some variables, and the PDF will explain to you how to add the new variables here or remove existing ones. But I can select temperature, I can select my conditions, so equal to 15, for example. And here I can select which action it will take when a test sensor sends a temperature with value of 15. I can set recipients if I did have a user for this organization, which I did not create yet. And I can enter the message. So I, for example, can say your device alert temperature with value. So this is something you can personalize. And you can actually create by groups as well. But I don't have any group yet. So just a quick example how the alerts works. And with a little of imagination, you can actually create different behaviors here by understanding how the alerts work with the Kickstarter. We also have the reports. So we can schedule PDF reports to be sent. So this is a different cool feature. So I can select which days, which time of the day the alert will be sent, select my users, and the sensors that will be inside the report. And about the PDF that will be sent, if you want to, for example, change the PDF layout, etc., you will need to enter the code because PDF is actually a HTML code. So keep that in mind, but you can do that. I don't see it as a difficult thing, but sometimes it does require HTML knowledge to do changes in the PDF. Yeah, I do believe I did cover most of the features, how to install. Thiago, I believe I'm open to questions now.
Hi, Victor. Sounds good. Thank you for the presentation. It was pretty clear and it brought up most of the important features that this Kickstarter brings. It is like it is a complete application where it stands, but it can be improved in so many ways due to its generic ability to integrate any sensor and have it and be available for any use case really. So if anyone would like to ask any questions, please feel free to do so by clicking in the Q&A. I'm gonna give it a couple moments. We have a question from Just One Singh. Can we see a sample dashboard and a sample PDF report, which may be a part of the Kickstarter?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Can we see a sample dashboard and sample PDF report, which may be a part of Kickstarter? Do we have a sample of the PDF that we generate through the Kickstarter right now?
So one of the questions was the sample of the sensor dashboard, right?
Mm-hmm. There we go.
So we do have this example for the simulator, freezer simulator. So you have temperature, compressor status, sensor history. And it very, actually you can do several things with this dashboard. It's just a sample, of course. You also have the history here. So just 1 point was sent by now. And when we have more points, we have more information in this chart. But I can quickly access my developer account here and find this dashboard. So it is the freezer simulator. So one way to quickly find is just copy the ID of the dashboard here. So you can enter any dashboard and replace the ID on the top. Just because since we are using the dictionary, the names in the list here is actually reference to the dictionary. So good to know that you can just copy the ID. And from here, we can delete this widget if you don't plan to use. You can edit the widget and change the variable if your sensor is sending a different variable. You can change the title or go directly to the dictionary and change there. So you have this cool chart that you can access from these header buttons. You can add a new one, remove, and it's actually calling a different widget that we have in the dashboard. And by editing it, you will see this hiding tab that do not show for the user, and this hiding widgets is actually there. So very basic stuff for dashboard. What the PDF will tell you is it requires some tags for the dashboard to work properly. So follow the PDF on how to have your own dashboard for your own sensors. So talking about the PDF, I will need to stop sharing here to get the PDF. Just a few minutes, a few seconds.
Sounds good, Victor. In the meantime, I'm gonna ask a Klaus Berger question. Thanks for the question, Klaus. What is the difference between the Kickstarter to your normal app? So what do you mean by normal app? You'll probably mean the admin side of things, which are where you build the dashboards and add devices, analysis, actions, upload your files, control your billing. It's your management side. So that is the admin. The Kickstarter is a result of all this work that was done to build an application, a structure that is ready to go. So that is the main difference. It's not that one is different from the other, but the Kickstarter, it's a result from all the development running behind the scenes, which is the sensor support, the analysis, the actions working together, the access management and users, policies are already created, the configuration on the run, the buttons are already created, and you can expand and go much further from there. So I hope that answers your question. Vitor, if you want to go back to the PDF.
Okay, so this is the PDF that the Kickstarter generates. So you can see, this is just an example. So you can see you can have your logo. You can add the colors in the background. And the PDF generates this table here with your sensor name, status, battery, and date and time. And of course, you can change that to have different headers for your table. And what is most important here is that this is an example for you to start building your own PDF reports. You will have a HTML for you to start. So you can add your colors, and since it uses HTML and actually does support JavaScript to generate the PDF, you can have graphs in here if you have a library that can generate a graph for you. So PDF is a very powerful tool that you can use for reports. I hope this answers your question, Thiago.
Thank you, Vitor. We do have a question for Celio Gushkin. Hi, all. Do you have an example how to send commands for sensors, though supported? I think in this case, Celio, would you mean a downlink, sending a downlink through sensor? Meanwhile, what we have that answer, we have another question from Klaus, which is, can the alarm alerts be customized? For example, one alarm, then 3 days, no alert, then alarm again if threshold is constantly passed. So I guess the answer is yes, and Peter can get a little deep in. You can build alerts by group of devices and by devices alone, and you can create different alerts if you like, more than one alert, of course. Do you have anything to complement in this case, Victor?
Yeah, so when you start to check how the alerts work for the Kickstarter, the way we build, of course, you can do your changes, is actually, let me check if I can create a user here to show the structure of the alert. So I am creating a user for the organization test, and the organization is selected actually in the dashboard here in the top. And we will have this selector in all the dashboards. If you have more organizations, it's just that I just have one organization. So it is automatically getting the only one organization I have here. So now I can create the alert. So let me quickly create one alert here. Okay, so I do have the alerts now. And if you go to your developer account, you will see that we create action in your account for this alert. And is actually setting up a trigger with temperature greater than 15 and a trigger unlock. And all this is in the script. So if, for example, you don't want your application to have trigger unlock, you need to go to the script and disable or comment this part of the code, so it won't generate the trigger unlock in your actions. And once this the sensor sends this information, it actually will trigger another analysis called alert trigger. And this analysis does have all the code to send the alert to the correct users and all the operations the alert need to do. So when you are using the Kickstarter, you do have option to customize the trigger unlock, what you want, what you don't want. And you can actually go to this code and change the behavior for when the alert is triggered. So I do believe this gives you a lot of customization and also a powerful tool for your application. I do hope this will answer your question as well.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you. Sally has responded to his question. So he's talking about a downlink. The downlink, I think it'll be at the same way that you would do normally on your regular dashboards outside the Kickstarter. So I think we have another webinar covering for this. If not, we can find a documentation. Feel free to talk about the downlink if you want to cover this here, Victor. But otherwise, we can refer to the documentation on this one.
Yeah, so we are working in a model for downlink alerts because actually, if you want to have downlinks today in the Kickstarter, you will need to add the code to this alert trigger or just change somehow in the code to, instead of calling the alert trigger, to call your downlink analysis. But keep in mind that we are working the model for downlinks, and hope soon you will be able to change to select downlinks from the Kickstarter default models as well.
Thank you, Victor. Celio, I hope that answers your question. Thank you for joining. I have a question from Alejandro Castro. Is it possible to configure multiple sensors or devices, or we have to do it one by one?
So as I mentioned that we do have grouping in the application. So if I go to sensors here, I should have the button to go to the groups. I'm not sure if it will work. I need to access the dashboard here. Just because I am a super administrator, probably the code for importing need to replace this ID here. Okay, I need to create the group first, sorry. So I need to go to this dashboard in here. So you can create your groups. So let's say group 1. And actually you have an address here just for you to see. You can add more fields for groups if you want to. And I can create my group. Okay. And once I have a group, I can go to my sensor and add it to a group that I already have. So now I can edit here and select my group 1. And this will allow me to go to the dashboard of the group and see all my sensors in this group, and as well go to the alerts here and create alerts by group. So I can create a new alert. Instead of by sensor, I select by group, and I can select group 1. So just by adding sensors to this group 1, the alert will automatically be paired with this all devices of this group, and I don't need to create a different alert every time I have a new sensor in the application. John?
Thank you, Victor. I hope that answers your question, Alejandro. We have also a question. Can you demonstrate us how to export data? I'm not sure if this question is in regards to data in a bucket or to data in a dynamic table on a dashboard. If you could please clarify it.
So actually, in any widget, basically you can export its contents just by clicking these three buttons. So I can export this list of sensors, for example, in both Excel file or CSV file. Same thing goes to sensors. So if you want your customer to be able to export, for example, a list of data, you need to add a table like this one, for example. So I can export my sensor history just by clicking the export button and exporting a CSV file or Excel file. Just make sure you have these widgets around so users can export their data if you want them to export. And of course, widgets have a limit of 10,000 data points. So the maximum number of data points they can export is 10,000 if it is done through widgets. And of course, if you want to export more information, let's say 50,000 data, 100,000 data, you need to go and build your own analysis unless we support it through a model. But it's expected for you to have your own needs and just add the analysis that you need for your application. So feel free to add this behavior to the Kickstarter if you want to.
All right, I hope that helps you. I don't see any other questions. So just complementing what I said first, this webinar is gonna be available on TagoIO/videos later on. You'll be able to review this and give your shot in the Kickstarter. Also, feel free to engage with me by email or through contact.tago.io. I'll be able to answer those both channels. If you want to talk a little bit further about your solution about the Kickstarter, I'll make myself available to do so. But up to today, I appreciate your time. And I would like to thank Peter for the great presentation on the Kickstarter. And we'll see each other on the next webinar. Thanks, everyone.